Chapter 6. Woe to them that are at ease in Zion, and to them that are secure in the mountain of Samaria, the notable men of the first of the nations, to whom the house of Israel come. Pass you to Calneh, and see, from there go to Hamath the great, then go down to Gath of the Philistines. Are they better than these kingdoms, or is their border greater than your border? You that put far away the evil day, and cause the seat of violence to come near, that lie upon beds of ivory, and stretch themselves upon their couches, and eat the lambs out of the flock, and the calves out of the midst of the stall, that thrum on the psaltery, that devise for themselves instruments of music like David, that drink wine in bowls, and anoint themselves with the chief anointments, but they are not grieved for the hurt of Joseph. Therefore now shall they go captive at the head of them that go captive, and the revelry of them that stretch themselves shall pass away. The Lord God has sworn by himself, saith the Lord, the God of hosts, I abhor the pride of Jacob, and hate his palaces, and I will deliver up the city with all that is therein. And it shall come to pass, if there remain 10 men in one house, that they shall die. And when a man's uncle shall take him up, even he that burneth him, to bring out the bones out of the house, and shall say unto him that is in the innermost parts of the house, Is there yet any with you? And he shall say, No. Then shall he say, Hold your peace, for we must not make mention of the name of the Lord. For behold, the Lord commandeth, and the great house shall be smitten into splinters, and the little house into chips. Do horses run upon rocks? Doth one plow with oxen? That you have turned justice into gall, and the fruit of righteousness into wormwood. You that rejoice in a thing of naught, that say, Have we not taken to us horns by our own strength? For behold, I will raise up against you a nation, O house of Israel, saith the Lord, the God of hosts, and they shall afflict you from the entrance of Hamath unto the brook of the Arabah. Let's go back up to verse 1. We can see Amos was a very angry man at that time, because there was a lot of things going on. The kingdom was being broken apart. The Assyrians had been afflicting them for years. The Arameans had been afflicting them. The Assyrians was carrying off the captive now. And Amos realized that it was all because they had turned from the law of God, and he was angry about this. And here we'll see that he's telling them in Samaria, because that's where Amos was prophesying, that speaking to those men who was in charge of the city, even those spiritual leaders at that time. Verse 1, Woe to them that are at ease in Zion, and to them that are secure in the mountain of Samaria, the notable men of the first of the nations, to whom the house of Israel come. And Zion is also that city of David. It is Milo, and this would be located right next to Jerusalem. And Samaria was of the head of Israel. When the houses were rent, they were separated, Judah from Israel. Samaria would represent the head now of Israel, and Zion is not the head of Israel, but now it is next to Jerusalem, which would be the place where the house of God was. 2, Pass you unto Calneh, and see, and from there go you to Hamath the great, then go down to Gath and the Philistines, and are they better than these kingdoms, or is their border greater than your border? So what he's saying is, compare now the borders of the Philistines and the borders of these nations around you. And Calneh is Anu's fortress, or the fortress of Anu, and it's one of the cities of Nimrod, and we will learn more about him later. Go to Hamath. Hamath is that place where they join the walls together to make enclosures. And Gath is the winepress of the Philistines, these that have strayed from God. And these are all symbolisms that are used as comparisons now for the borders of Israel and these other nations that are around them, and how great their kingdoms were compared to them. For we know that God did divide the kingdoms up in the beginning, even a long time before this period when the children of Israel came in to possess these nations and drove back the people who were there. But they was not able to drive them utterly out of the land, and they did become thorns in their side. And this is what this is all about. 3, you that put far away the evil day and cause the seed of violence to come near. And he's talking to the leaders of these cities, because what they've done is they perverted justice to their own gain. They perverted the spiritual side of everything to their own gain. And they put far away the evil day, saying, this evil day is not going to come upon you. But now, in doing so, they have brought near the judgment of God, which will be the end of it all. 4, that lie upon beds of ivory, and stretch themselves upon their couches, and eat the lambs out of the flock, and the calves out of the midst of the stall. In other words, they stretch themselves out on these beds of ivory, these beds that they've made white, these beds that are made white, and they stretch themselves upon their couches, these places where they make themselves comfortable. They've made themselves these comfortable places to lay, and they eat the lambs out of the flock. Now, and this is in reference to they go around and they think they can save people. They can't save nobody. God only saves. And this is what this is in reference to. They pluck these people out like lambs because they're going to fleece them for their wool. And these calves out of the midst of the stall, because those that are kept in the stall now are set aside and they're fattened up. They have a purpose. And this is what this is in reference to. 5, that thrum on the psaltery, that devise for themselves instruments of music like David. And these psalteries are musical instruments that would make a pleasant noise. And this is what this means, these instruments of music, these instruments that create this pleasantness now to draw you in. And such things did David make. He was a maker of instruments of music. 6, that drank wine in bowls, and anoint themselves with chief anointments. But they are not grieved for the hurt of Joseph. And they drank the wine in the bowls. They, instead of drinking the wine from a glass or a cup, they would drink it from a bowl. The bowl's a little wider and fatter, so that they could drink a little more wine. And they anoint themselves with the chief ointments. And these chief ointments are the best ointments. They take care of themselves with the best. But the hurt now of Joseph means added, and we remember this is Manasseh and Ephraim, these that are gone astray, these that have gone astray. They are the double-fruited, and those that have the cause to forget. They have forgotten God and His law. And this is of God. God's using them as an example. They don't care about them. They don't understand these things. And all they care about is the money. And they perverted this place. And they perverted the seat now that God set up to give the mercy now from God. 7, therefore now shall they go captive. At the head of them that go captive. And the revelry of them that stretched themselves shall pass away. And this revelry of them that stretch themselves, these that have stretched themselves out and think they have made a comfortable place to stay and a comfortable place to lay, they revel in this, that they have all this great wisdom now and of God, and they've stretched themselves out, and they think they've got an easy job, and they think they've got an easy way to go. But God's promised they've gone captive now. At the head of them they've gone captive, because He's pointing out this captivity is in understanding, not in a physical sense, even though we're going to find God does bring it on in the physical sense, because you're going to get an explanation, a demonstration, and then you'll get your practical application, which you're probably receiving now. 8, The Lord God hath sworn by himself, saith the Lord, the Lord, the God of hosts, I abhor the pride of Jacob, and hate his palaces, and I will deliver up this city with all that is therein. And Amos is prophesying against Samaria here, this place of dregs, this place that was named the place of dregs. And he's saying, I abhor the pride of Jacob, and these are the children of Israel. Jacob, his name was changed to Israel. His palaces are these high places that he's made, these places that he's made for himself, because God wanted them to serve him, but they took now, and they wanted a king. We remember Samuel warned them. They didn't want this, and now we see what has come upon them. 9. It shall come to pass, if there remain 10 men in one house, they shall die. And this one house means this house, this place of gathering, this place where they abode, these 10 men. Now, this is the law of men. This is what men have taught. These shall die. They're going to be done away with, these laws of men. 10. And when a man's uncle shall take him up, even he that burns him, to bring out the bones of the house, and shall say unto him that is in the innermost part of the house, Is there yet any with you? And he shall say, No. Then shall he say, Hold your peace, for we must not make mention of the name of the Lord. And this uncle would be the brother of the deceased one's father. The father would not be allowed to touch the body or to defile himself there, so his uncle would go in now to get the body. Even he that burns him, this would be to cause him to pass through the fire. The one that's caused him to pass through the fire now. The brother of his father. To bring out the bones, the essence now from the house, this place where he was caused to be burned. He shall say unto any one who's there, Is there any with you? And if the one he spoke to says no, he shall say, Hold your peace, for we must not make mention of the name of the Lord, because this now is of a punishment of God. This loss of the son, this loss of the nephew here is a punishment of God, because they have strayed from God. They are not. He realizes now this is from that. He says, Hold your peace. We must not make mention of the name of the Lord, for he is not to be associated with death, for he is the God of the living. 11. For behold, the Lord commandeth, and the great house shall be smitten into splinters, and the little house into chips. And this great house was this house that was set up now that they might have mercy. This house that's exalted itself now, that they might have mercy on the people. And this little house is the house of the king, which God said, I'm going to make an example of this little house, and it represents the king. 12. Do horses run upon the rocks? Doth one plow with the oxen? That you have turned justice into gall, and the fruit of righteousness into wormwood. And no horses won't run upon the rock. If you have real rocky ground, a horse would break his ankles there. He would not run for you. He would only walk in a very careful manner. You don't plow with the ox there either. Even if you could get the ox through there, they couldn't drag the plow through the stone. But now this is what they're trying to do. See, they think the horses represent the strong, and these rocks, these rough places to go, because God's going to make it rough on them. That you can't plow in the stone, and that's what they're trying to do. They think they can. You've turned justice into gall, and justice this means you've perverted it and made it a poisonous thing to drink. It has become poison. Your justice, because you have perverted it and made it a thing of greed, made it a way to prosper thereby. and this fruit of righteousness, this truth, this understanding that should come forth from being good, doing the law, you've turned into wormwood or bitterness. You teach that you don't have to obey the law. You teach that the law is made of none effect. That you teach that the law is only spiritual, when the law is fleshful as well. If you don't obey the law, it shows in society. We keep the lesser, see, to show we have understanding of the greater. But if we do on the greater, the lesser goes undone. And this is what we're talking about. 13, you that rejoice in a thing of naught, that say, have we not taken to us horns by our own strength? You think you've done this? God's done this to you. He's made you ignorant. You think you've got this great strength. You think you've made you something now that can give you power over the people. This thing of nothing, and we're going to find out it's idolatry. 14, for behold, I will raise up against you a nation, O house of Israel, saith the Lord, the God of hosts, and they shall afflict you from the entrance of Hamath unto the brook of the Arabah. And we know Hamath is that place of walls, that place where the walls join together. This brook of the Arabah is a dry desert place. And the brook is that wadi, or that wash that would water it. But what we're talking about here, God is saying, I'm going to afflict you, Israel, from one end to the other. And we'll find that's exactly what God does. And the prophets will ask, where yet shall you be stricken? Because that's what He's done to Israel. And He scattered them out. They're scattered out. They represent these nations that are getting ready to be carried away here. These nations that are carried away by the Assyrians and taken and scattered out. And then the remnant that's left, those that have escaped to Judah, they're going to be carried off by the king of Babylon. For there's a great captivity coming. And there's none going to escape. God's done prophesied that. None going to escape. All right, we're going to move on to chapter 7.